Hello there and welcome to the Bicycle Diaries and welcome to week 15 of my Mallorca training plan. So here we are currently also in goodness knows whatever week it is of lockdown. All I do know is that last week the UK government imposed a further 3 weeks of restrictions, which means we have at least another 2 weeks to go. Now, the current rules are still the same. We're still allowed to go out for one exercise session a day, be that cycling or walking. And again, I've been making the most of that, particularly because the weather here in the UK has just been extraordinarily fantastic. The lockdown is also explaining why I'm kind of rocking the Robinson Crusoe look at the moment. I haven't had a haircut in about 8 weeks. Yes, I'm starting to look like I've been marooned on some sort of desert island, which in theory I kind of have. My other half has very kindly offered to give me a haircut, but she's not a hairdresser, and to my knowledge she's never really done it before. So it's either Robinson Crusoe or having the look that I've had my hair cut by the council. Welcome to today's ride. I'm actually going to try and do the ride that I attempted last Sunday when I managed to break a spoke on my Cannondale. I'm riding my Trek today, and would you believe that when I got it out the other day to do my first ride on it since October, I noticed that the rim on the rear wheel had cracked. So I've had to invest in an emergency pair of wheels. Hopefully I won't break anything more over the next few weeks or so. Today's ride is going to take us on one of my regular routes up Bevis's Thumb. And then once we've done that, we'll go down the other side, up Harting Hill, turn around on ourselves, and then it's a nice long descent through Compton, down into Westbourne, back up to Rowlands Castle, and then home. All told, it should be about 45 kilometres today, and already I can feel that the wind is pretty strong. According to my phone, it was only supposed to be about 10 kilometres an hour, but it feels a lot stronger than that. If the forecast is to be believed, should have a tailwind all the way down Harting Hill. Let's see. Before we get too much further into today's ride, I'd just like to say a massive thank you to somebody called Martin at a company called Profuro Gear down there in Australia. Martin very kindly sent me the jersey that I'm wearing today, and I've worn it on a couple of rides over the past few weeks, and I have to say it's absolutely fantastic. The quality is amazing, and plus the sizing is really good. I'm wearing the 3XL at the moment, and it fits me very well. If you're struggling to find plus size jerseys, I suggest that you give Martin's website a look. I'll leave the information in the description below. because today's ride is a bit longer, I'm not going to go too mad. I'm just going to take it nice and easy. In fact, I can already feel that I'm pretty sore in the legs, and we're only 9 kilometers in, and I have yet to do the first of the climbs, which is up Bevis's thumb. Yep, definitely finding it a bit hard today. This is something like my 7th or 8th ride in a row, and most of those I've been pushing it quite hard, so my legs could probably do with a rest. So much for taking it easy. Just listen to that. Absolute silence. All you can hear is just bird song really loud. I suppose that's one of the upsides of the lockdown. No cars, no people, just nature. From here I'll just turn around on myself, ride back down the hill into Compton, Westbourne, Rowlands Castle, and then home. Hopefully, if the wind pixies are smiling on me, I'll even have a tailwind. Well, I think for once it might just be a tailwind. Not quite as strong a tailwind as I first thought, but a tailwind nevertheless. have spoken a little too soon about that wind. Blowing an absolute hoolie coming down that Compton road. Some of the more eagle-eyed of you may have noticed that I've gone back to using my Garmin 510 cycling computer. Now, there's nothing wrong with the Karoo, still absolutely love using it. It's just that now I'm on the trek, I just didn't want to swap the mounts over and use the proper hammerhead mount. Even though the mounts are the same, the Karoo's actually quite a bit longer than the Garmin, and it wouldn't fit on this this bike, unfortunately. One of the fantastic things about having Di2 electronic gears on the Trek here is that you just do not need to adjust it at all. Now, as I said earlier, this is my first ride on this bike since October. I've also changed wheels, so that meant changing the rear cassette from the old wheels to the new ones. And the Di2 just says, right, okay, there you go, I've sorted it out, no problem. They all index perfectly. So there we go, that's today's ride, done and dusted, and 42 kilometres in the bank of fitness. Now, I don't mind admitting that I did find that rather hard today, and that could have been down to several reasons. Firstly, it's the first ride on the Trek, so it's getting used to the position on this bike again. It could be the new wheels being a bit heavier. Obviously the wind was making life difficult, and plus I have been out pushing it quite hard over the last few days, so my legs probably need a little bit of a rest.
So with 40 plus kilometers in the bank of fitness, I was trying to build up a little bit more of my endurance on that ride. And since then I've done quite a few others. That was actually, I think, about ride 3 of 5 that I've done this week. And the other ones have been a bit more kind of speed and strength based. So I went out and did a couple of rides on the Southwark course. And yes, I did try to push it quite a bit harder than I would normally. And in fact, I managed to get a couple of PRs, one on Pittymore Lane and then another one on Bunkers Hill. And that last one particularly surprised me because I was trying a different strategy. Basically, I was riding in a lower gear but pedaling a bit faster rather than kind of mashing it up the hill for speed. So I was very, very pleased with that. As I set out on the road, I was having a bit of an issue with the rear wheel on the Trek. Basically, I rolled the bike out of the garage for the first time since October, and in light of the issues that I've had with the Cannondale and the Isaac recently, I thought it would be prudent to give it a quick once-over safety check before I rode it. And lo and behold, I discovered the crack on the rear rim, which was particularly frustrating because the Trek at the moment is the only bike that I have to ride. Here in the UK, bike shops are considered an essential service, which means they remain open throughout the lockdown. So I took my wheel up to my chum Steve at his shop Bike Fixers, and unfortunately he confirmed that the rim was indeed cracked and beyond repair, so I needed a new set of wheels before I was able to ride the Trek again. Fortunately for me, Steve did have a suitable pair of wheels in stock. They were Vittoria Tactics, which when I looked them up were down as kind of basic training wheels. Now I could have ordered something slightly more fancy online, but the disadvantage there would have been that I would have had to have waited a couple of days for them to arrive, which might even have been delayed due to the current circumstances. Plus, if I spent a bit more money on a nicer set of wheels, that probably would have meant that the wheels themselves would have been lighter. I figure that the more money you pay, you're actually just paying for wheels to be lighter. And for me personally, I'm not terribly interested in light wheels. The overriding factor for me is the strength. So I thought, no, I'll go with these Vittoria Tactics. So I installed those on my bike last week and have been riding them ever since. I don't mind admitting that yes, I was more than a little disappointed to discover the crack. It was just one more thing that had gone wrong with another bike, not to mention another expense that I didn't need. But on reflection, I thought, well, those wheels are 6 years old and they've given me some great service in that time. And wheels do crack and rims crack and wheels fail, so maybe I should just be thankful that I got my 6 years of service out of them. And with that in mind, I also invested in a spare battery for my Di2 system. At the moment, the battery is working perfectly. There's no issues with it. It's still powering the system fine and it's still holding the charge. But I know from experience that rechargeable batteries only have a certain amount of charge cycles in them, and rather than just be left high and dry one day without a battery, and more importantly without the means to buy a spare battery, that battery might not be available in future, I thought I'd buy one now, leave it on the shelf, not do anything with it, and only use it in the event that the current Di2 battery fails. And while I was giving the Trek a little bit of attention, I thought I would have a look at my position on the bike as well. Basically, the couple of rides that I did last week, the first few didn't feel quite as good as I was expecting. Now, long story short, I got the tape measure out and took the references off the Cannondale, which felt absolutely perfect, and transferred them over to the Trek, which in reality meant all I had to do was move the saddle forward about half a centimetre, and then the ride that I did after that just felt perfect again. So the Trek at the moment is looking really, really good and it's feeling absolutely amazing. So mechanicals aside, it's actually been a pretty good week on the bike. The totals for the week so far are 166 kilometres ridden, 7 hours of seat time, and 1,302 metres climbed. So that brings the grand total to 1,533 kilometres ridden, 67 hours and 45 minutes of seat time, and 9,774 metres climbed. And if we go over to Strava, we can see that on Monday my fitness score was 53, Tuesday it was 52, Wednesday it went back up to 53 again, Thursday it had climbed to 54, Saturday it was 52, and Sunday it was back down to 53 again. I am actually feeling pretty positive about the cycling that I've done this week. I've ridden 166 kilometres, so that's the longest kilometre count of the year so far. Plus I am really starting to feel a lot fitter and start riding just that little bit faster. The weather forecast, unfortunately, next week isn't looking great. We say goodbye to the really nice weather that we have been having, and although it's set to be dry for the first half of next week, it is forecasting rain to move in and stay with us for the foreseeable future. So for me on the bike, that means going out on the road when I can, when it's dry, and when it's wet I have to use the turbo trainer in the garage. Now obviously I did complete my base miles this week, so that means a slight change to my training. I've already started to introduce the shorter, faster rides, and I'll be continuing with those, but I do really need to start working on my endurance, particularly if I am going to ride the London 100 in August. So far this year my longest ride has been about 65 kilometres, and I'll need to do at least twice that when I do the London 100. So one of the rides a week next week should be building on my endurance. So I would like to be able to crack the 70 kilometre barrier next week. So there we go, fingers crossed I'll be able to get out between the rain and get some decent riding in. So wherever you are in the world, hopefully you and the people that you care about are staying safe and well, and thank you for watching.